Do you feel like people are taking advantage of you? Like people walk all over you all the time. They treat you like a doormat. Sometimes you end up saying sorry even when it's not your fault. Why? Hi, my name is Jay, and over the last 5.5 years, I've been working with people, helping them overcome their subconscious patterns. You know, the things that we do that end up hurting ourselves, hurting our own progress, destroying our lives, and worst of all, hurting the people that are closest to us. In this video, I want to talk about how guilt can become part of our identity. Taking on blame and confusing it for responsibility. There's a distinction here. I think everyone must have self responsibility, meaning you take responsibility for your actions, for your emotions, for your thoughts. But there's a distinction between taking on responsibility, being self responsible, and then taking on blame. And there's a thin line. Taking on responsibility for what you do, good. Taking on the blame for what somebody else does, bad. Taking on responsibility for your own thoughts, for the way that you feel, that's powerful. Or when you take on responsibility, let's call it blame, for how somebody else is feeling, that is too much of a burden for anyone to carry. See, here's the truth. When guilt becomes part of your operating system, it becomes part of your identity, you start taking on responsibility for things that you have no control over. You start over blaming yourself. You start over explaining yourself. You start over apologizing and sacrificing things that you should not be sacrificing in the hopes that somehow you'll make somebody else happy. In this video, I'm going to cover 3 things that is so important for you to know. Because if you find yourself trapped in this pattern, or if you know somebody in your life, family member, a friend, a loved one, that you find keeps doing this again and again, please send this video to them. Taking on too much blame isn't about having humility. It's not about being a nice person. It's actually a result of a deep fear. It's a result of a belief that if you don't cater to other people's emotions and feelings by taking on more blame than necessary, something terrible is going to happen. That people are going to abandon you, people are going to leave you. And the fact is, the ones who truly matter in your life won't. They won't leave. And the ones who are there for the wrong reason, they're the ones who can get the hell out. Let me explain. So the first thing that you have to understand with this sort of a pattern is your childhood connection with this pattern. Because this isn't something that's new. If you look at your life and you try to think about the last time that you felt this urge to take blame, you'll realize that it actually comes from a pattern that was established in childhood. Just think about this feeling. That feeling that comes up, there's this dread that comes up when you have this urge of apologizing, that if you don't do it, something's going to happen. Something bad is going to happen. Somehow you are unsafe. It's almost like a fear response. Take this feeling, and if you take it back to your earliest time that you remember having this feeling, and if you just give it a bit more time, you'd realize that it probably comes from when you were 7, 6, 5, 4, maybe even younger in age. And when you're living in a family where you're conditioned to believe that if you behave in a particular way, so for example, if you apologize, if you take responsibility, if you take blame, then you will be supported, you'll be loved, you'll be taken care of, most likely by your parents or other people in your family or other authority figures in your life, maybe your teachers, maybe grandparents. But you'll realize that there's probably one defining moment in your life where this pattern was set, where you learned this behavior, that if you took responsibility, then you'd be okay. That somehow you, as a child, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, is responsible for the feelings of maybe your mother, maybe your father, maybe somebody else in your life. And you learned this. And back then, you realize that if you continue to do and follow through with this pattern, that everything is going to be okay. The parent is going to be happy. Mom, dad is going to be happy. Or the person, any other person in your life that has made this a condition for you is going to accept you, is going to love you, is going to take care of you. And it feels, at that age, it feels like a life or death response, because it's almost as if this person is going to reject me if I don't take responsibility for their feelings. So you learn this in childhood, and then it's a pattern that keeps repeating and reinforcing itself as you grow older. So I know somebody who, like a gem of a person, she's a very, very good friend of mine. And I see how the stories that she's told me about her childhood, about how she would always have to be the person responsible for the feelings of everybody else in the family, because everybody else in the family had a very, very, very hard time managing their own feelings. Today, she takes an extreme amount, like an unnecessary amount of responsibility in the feelings of other people. So even when it's not her fault, just to make other people feel better, she'll apologize. It's almost like a habit that, she says something and almost anticipating that the other person is not going to accept it, she'll apologize. And this can have really big repercussions. Like this could make a very big deal in that person's career, in that person's romantic relationship. I'll give you an example. I saw her talking to a client. She decided now that she wants to grow her business, and she wants to charge more money and upgrade her services. And she had a whole bunch of existing clients that she had to either upgrade to the higher tier service or just let go of, because they weren't willing to upgrade. And an upgrade means paying more. So she was almost apologetic about, I'm so sorry, I have to ask you for more money. But she needed to ask for that money to get her business to the next level, to keep growing as an entrepreneur. So she goes up to them and she explains the situation, and she was so upset that they weren't supportive of her, that her client wasn't saying, oh yeah, you go, no problem, go and do it. In fact, the client had an opposite reaction, and the client got angry and upset, and this made her very upset. And that's understandable. Of course, that's understandable. But it got her so upset that she spent the next few weeks obsessing day and night about how she could make it up to this client. She apologized multiple times. It didn't make any difference. And the thing is, she's still thinking about how this could have happened. And perhaps she made the wrong decision, which is insane, because she made the decision for her own family, for herself, for her business, for her growth. And no one can be blamed for that. But she blames herself. Even though all the people around her, me included, I tell her, listen, this is necessary. But there's a pattern. Right? The pattern is that she believes that somehow she is responsible for the feelings of somebody else. And the underlying belief below that is that somehow, if the other person doesn't feel all right with her, the other person is not accepting of her, doesn't love her. Love is a very, it's not, you might think that, okay, it's a client, what do you mean love? But the child inside of you doesn't know the difference. So when someone, even a stranger, kind of rejects you, it could mean that I am not good enough, like I am not worthy of love. And we've all felt that in some way or the other, especially in the romantic context, right? We've all felt that. So the underlying belief here is that this client that is not approving of me anymore, I need to make sure that this person is approving of me, loves me. Otherwise, I'm not going to be loved. Otherwise, that means I'm not safe. And when your safety is jeopardized, then the whole nervous system goes out of whack. And there's so much attention. Like, you think about it, something is threatening your safety. If you're in a predator and prey situation, even though you're not, but your mind believes that you are, what is going to happen? There's going to be stress, there's going to be an obsession, there's going to be an insane amount of focus and energy that's going into thinking about and that situation and resolving that situation, pleasing that person. And that can have huge problems, in your own emotional health, your mental health, and that as a result in your business, as a result in your stress levels, your sleep, your everything. It's such a interesting thing. When you look at this, it's like a lesson that you learned, a strategy that you learned in childhood is being repeated over and over and over again throughout your life in different ways with different people in different contexts, because it's like this: how you do one thing is how you do everything. The same pattern repeats itself over and over and over again. And the whole idea is to create a transformation from the inside, to change this pattern from the inside. Now, if this pattern sounds familiar to you, I just want to mention that you can verify if this is a pattern that you are in fact displaying in your life by taking an assessment that's there in the description below. We'll talk more about that later towards the end of the video, but now let's move on to the next thing I want to talk about. So the next thing that you have to remember is when someone takes responsibility, you're basically taking charge and control of your life. And that's good, because when you're taking responsibility for your own emotions, for your own actions, for your own thoughts, that's powerful. You can do something about it. However, when you extend that to the feelings of other people, the behaviors of other people, how they respond to you, now there's an illusion of control that you create by taking on blame. And that's the second thing. It's a complete illusion. Right? You do not have control over how somebody else feels. You do not have control about how somebody else responds back to you. You don't. You can try your best, but that's not going to be enough. When you have attachment to that outcome, when you have attachment to how somebody else is going to respond to something that you do, then now this creates like this feedback loop, right? Where you do something, you try hard, you don't get the response that you want, you try harder. You don't get the response that you want, and you try harder. And you feel stuck. In a relationship, for example, trying to please the other person, they're not changing. Okay, let me try harder. Let me give more. They're not changing. Let me give more. I'm sorry, it's my fault. I'm sorry, I am to blame. And the only reason that you're doing this is to have some form of control over the uncontrollable. And the important thing to remember over here is that you can't control how other people are going to respond to you. You can only control the response that you have to other people's responses. There is control, but only in how you feel, not how you can make someone else feel, not on how somebody else is going to behave towards you. And so the third thing is realizing this distinction between blame and responsibility. It is absolutely important to take responsibility for yourself. But you cannot take the blame that other people put on you. You cannot take responsibility for the way other people feel. That does not mean that you do anything that you want and you hurt somebody and then you say, you know, you have to take care of yourself. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying after you apologize, first of all, be sure that you do need to apologize. But after you apologize, it's not your responsibility anymore. If you truly feel remorse for a mistake, a genuine mistake that you made, that you realized by taking responsibility for your own thoughts and actions, good. But if somebody is angry at you, and they're angry at you for their own reasons, because you are not behaving in a way that they want you to behave, you're behaving in the way you want to behave, that is true to you, then you stick with that. You stay strong with that. One of the relationships that I was in was a beautiful relationship that lasted for 2 years. We really loved each other, like really. But we also realized that there were things that we wanted that were different. And I found myself taking on more responsibility than I should have been taking on in that relationship. There were beliefs, there were ideologies, there were principles that my partner had that did not match with my own ideologies, principles, and thoughts. When I expressed what I felt, when I expressed, I think this is, this is right, and she disagreed with me, she would get hurt because, her values and her principles were different. And when she got hurt, I would take the blame. It's not her fault, by the way. I would willingly take the blame. And I try to do better. And the thing is, when I try to do better, I'm actually acting in opposition to my own principles and values and thoughts. And, I was thinking, hey, I'm just trying to be a good partner. But the truth is that I was betraying myself by doing that. And when we realized what was going on, the only logical solution was that we needed to change the configuration of our relationship. We needed to move on. You need to respect yourself. You need to respect your own values, your own belief systems. But it's easier said than done when you have a pattern taking responsibility for somebody else's feelings just because you believe that somehow if they would be okay, if they felt okay, you would be okay. And that's just not true. You have to find a way to be okay whether they're okay or not. And that is taking responsibility for yourself, but not the blame. If you're somebody, that resonated with this, and you want to really understand at a deeper level what your patterns are, then I have a few very helpful things in the description below. Go down, take a look. We have an amazing assessment that you could do that will tell you your patterns to the T. We also have a fantastic space, like an incubator for transformation, for inner transformation. Because transformation starts from the inside. You want to change your life? Change who you are. And for that, I have something called the Breakthrough Lab. So take a look at the description. Remember that the unconscious patterns that you have shape your emotions, shape your thoughts, shape your behaviors. Thousands of people have been helped by taking this assessment. So make sure you take it. And apart from that, remember, blame doesn't build you, the truth does. Till the next time, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.